Hi friends, welcome to the kitchen. Being a vegan for 2.5 years, I figured that some things nutrition-wise work and some things just don't. So I want to share some of the things that may be helpful for someone starting out on a vegan journey, because nutritional aspects and health aspects of it are not always correctly reflected in the social media. And I found that those can be quite, cause a little bit of a detriment to health and are not as helpful. For this reason, I would like to share my food haul or my groceries haul, including some of my pantry basics together with prices. So maybe if you have some questions regarding vegan nutrition or vegan cooking in Dubai in particular, it will be more helpful for you, because I'm going to link the prices from here as well as the apps that I'm using to be more helpful for you. Nutrition-wise, myself, I have found out that I've been under consuming protein and iron for quite a while. So these are the two nutrients that I'm targeting throughout my week, and this is why I'm meal prepping the way I'm meal prepping. A small segment for anyone who lives in Dubai or who's relocating to Dubai and looking for apps to buy groceries. I mostly use two apps, going on to the third and the fourth one. So the first one is for the fresh groceries exclusively, and this is NRTC app. They have a great selection of groceries, and I do try out a couple of new things every week. The second app is Talabat. I don't know why, it just seems very convenient to me. However, they're very similar to an instant shop, and I'm using that one as well. And Kareem is the fourth app, which I'm trying out right now because they do have a premium subscription, and I do want to save on deliveries. Sometimes it doesn't work as expected. However, I'm trying them out. I would like to start with the fresh produce, and I would like to start with something which I actually purchased the previous week, and I did have a chance to consume it throughout the week. And these are the yellow bell peppers and the red bell peppers. I'm going to be using them in the meal prep. They're high in vitamin C when they're raw, and they're high in beta carotenes when they're cooked. Apart from that, I have some leftover Brussels sprouts. Those are kind of the cruciferous vegetables which I'm trying to have every week pretty much. They're quite high in antioxidants, and they have been shown to lower the chances of developing certain types of cancers, which is specifically related for the female reproductive health and reproductive system. So if you have any issues, consult with your health professional. However, keep in mind that these tiny little things that people don't like typically may be very, very beneficial for your health concerns. If you don't like something, just a tip, try to use them with a sauce. Try to cook them in different kinds of ways until you find the way that suits you perfectly, because these ones right now I can just boil them or parboil them in water with some salt and eat with a little bit of mustard. However, I also like them roasted, and those are just perfect for some tiny little snack. And this is the box that I got. This is full of fresh groceries. Let's go over it. We are going to start with herbs and with fresh greens. Those are apparently green onions. I do have issues using them, and these ones don't have roots, which on one hand makes them less messy. On the other hand, it's less easy to preserve them fresh, because when they do have roots, you can actually put them into the water jar and they will kind of stay fresh for a little bit longer. The smell can be quite ridiculous though when you forget to change the water. You have to change it from time to time. Next up is parsley. I'm going to use it in salads as well as in falafels. This is nice little fresh herb which not everyone likes. The smell is quite strong and not everyone likes it, but you can use it in salads like tabbouleh as well as that. I'm going to be using it in my falafel recipes. Stay tuned for those. I'm going to be trying to cook them without oil and without deep frying. And if you know me, you know that I do like my mushrooms. This is kind of a veggies, but not veggies, if you know what I mean. I like portobello mushrooms. This is one of my favorites. And this is how they come in, a couple of portobello mushrooms. I'm going to make them on a grill, marinated, and I'm going to use a couple of other varieties. This kind of mushrooms, the brown mushrooms, they're very widespread. They're very similar to the white button mushrooms, and I'm going to use them in the one pot rice recipe. Shiitake mushrooms come in a vacuum packaging because why? If you ever tried them, you may know that their flavor, their smell is quite strong, and it may not be for everyone. I'm also going to be using them in a one pot recipe. When they come in a combination, in a mix with other ingredients, they do give a very interesting flavor. It may seem a little bit too harsh for someone who's trying them for the first time. So I would not recommend this kind of mushrooms for someone who is very skeptical of mushrooms as a category. But as you progress and you train your palate to taste more and more things and you get accustomed to more flavors, these are really nice. I took off my jacket because it's just so hot in here. I'm literally like sweating. I cannot turn on the AC, and outside it's probably like 44 degrees. But if I turn on the AC, it's going to be too loud. So moving on to another kind of mushrooms, I am cooking the oyster mushrooms this week. Those are beautiful, great. They're quite high in iron compared to other mushrooms. Also, one fact about mushrooms that not many people know is that they can produce their own vitamin D. There is still argument if it's as bioavailable as vitamin D3, which is found in animal sources. However, this is one of the vegan vitamin D's alternatives, which can play to your benefit. Moving on, we get some fruits here, and it's like a lottery, you know, when I'm taking these things out. We have some bananas. Bananas are really nice in smoothies, in pancakes, anything that needs a little bit of binding, but you don't use eggs, and things like banana cake, of course. And one of my favorite recipes that includes bananas is different varieties of ice creams or vegan ice creams, where you just freeze some of those bananas once they're a little bit more ripe, and then you process them in a food processor. While we are on the topic of fruits, I got some kiwis for myself. What I really like about this place is that they send everything in paper packaging, and it's not excessively expensive. I would say it's cheaper than going grocery shopping somewhere in the store. However, typically when you get some paper packaging, it means that it's going to be fancier, meaning more expensive than in the regular store. So I do recommend this app. They also have a lot of discounts on fresh produce, which is also helping to save a coin. Speaking of the kiwis, I really do like these buddies. They are quite high in vitamin C. Some people eat them with the skin on, which is supposed to boost the fiber content, of course, but you wouldn't like to eat the skin of a fruit without washing them. As well as that, if they're non-organic, it's sometimes better to wash the skin a little bit more rigorously, because you can have the leftovers of the pesticides on the surface of the fruit or the vegetable. Our next lot is carrots. I'm not a big carrot eater. I know there are people who like eating them carrots raw. However, I do struggle with that, but I do use them from time to time to cook different kinds of stews. As well as that, they go really nice in the one pot dishes, like the one pot rice meal that I'm going to cook later on today. When I'm saying that something is cheap, it means Dubai cheap, by the way. I know that there are a lot of concerns around prices in Dubai and the costs of living here. It's not cheap, but it's also not as expensive in some other places, and it's actually affordable. I would put it this way. Of course, everything depends on your level of income, but if you're making some money here, you can afford your groceries. So moving on, I got some tomatoes. Those are going to be part of my meal prep as well. Those are very fragrant, really nice. It can be a little bit hard to find really ripe tomatoes in here, which is why sometimes I do prefer wine tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, but those are really nice and fragrant. and I hope they're going to taste really nice as well. Meanwhile, we continue. I do have grapefruits. I do really like some good, nice grapefruits, and there are two of these here. Oops. I do like some grapefruits, especially after the food. They do give me such a nice, fresh feeling. I know people who hate grapefruits. If you do hate grapefruits for how bitter they are, try to peel off the membrane of the grapefruit pieces. This membrane is actually the bitter part in the grapefruit, and once you peel it off, it's going to become sweeter and more nice. We are approaching the end of this whole food grocery haul with the purple potatoes. I do like them. They're quite waxy instead of starchy. They're more sugary and they maintain the shape and the texture a little bit better than starchy potatoes, which makes them nicer when you want the potato to be firm and kind of when you want it to have a little bit of a bite. When you use starchy potatoes, you would like to use them for purees, for mashed kind of potatoes. And when you want the surface to disintegrate a little bit, like in the Colombian potato stew, those are the potatoes that give the soup its substance. And this is the part where I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Taline, which has been promoting artichokes. Pardon. She's Lebanese and she's been cooking these things by just boiling them and dipping them in a really simple sauce. I'm kind of intrigued by those. This is why I'm going to cook them in this meal prep, and this is why I got them in my grocery haul. I do try to get some things which are a little bit out of the ordinary while I do have this opportunity to try foods from different cuisines. And Middle Eastern cuisine is something that I've been quite passionate about before moving here in terms of trying the things. This is why also cooking at home is quite nice, because you get to try a lot of things that you wouldn't have tried otherwise.
Fresh groceries for the week cost me between 150 170 AD or $41 to $46.
And apart from the things that I did purchase in this grocery haul, I do have certain things that I have in my pantry or in the fridge at all times, and I would like to share this with you because I find that this is kind of the base of the meal prep, of meal preparation in general, of cooking. So this may be useful for someone who's just starting out on the vegan journey. And we are going to start with the rice or any other grain. Here I have some brown basmati rice. I do also have the wild black rice here. And one thing about rice and grains in general, it is often debated what kind of rice contains more fiber, what kind of rice contains more protein. The answer is it depends, and it not only depends on the type of rice, but also on the producer, on the manufacturer. So if you're buying a particular variety, just go and check them in the store, check the label, and you can find tremendous differences within the same group of products. And it applies to plant milks, to coconut milk, to rice, to grain, to any other thing pretty much. Rice can be great when it's cooked fresh. I also cook the rice in a one-pot style with a lot of vegetables. However, in about 3 days, it can get dangerous to reheat the rice because of the bacteria that live inside of the cooked rice. So this is why it's not the best for the meal prep. You can use it. I use it, but do as I say, not as I do. Some other grains that can be used for meal prep, or like let's say pseudo grains, are quinoa and buckwheat. For those of you who don't know, I was born in Russia and I was raised in Russia. Now I live abroad. So buckwheat is something that we've been eating quite a lot in Russia actually. Buckwheat is something that's in the culture so much, and it's hard to imagine a household without some buckwheat. Buckwheat is actually a superfood, you can say so. It's quite high in protein, very high in fiber, and it's actually quite rich in iron as well. So if you would like to hit those targets in your nutrition, consider getting yourself some buckwheat. The last last grain for today is going to be oats. I do use quite some oats for the overnight oats. I do like them for breakfast quite a bit. They're a very good source of soluble fiber, as well as that they do have some iron and some protein as well, which make them a really nice kickstarter for your day. Moving into something which I can call less substantial, one of those things is plant milk. I usually do have some kind of soy milk in my fridge. I prefer to choose the non-sweetened varieties because I can sweeten them if I would like to, but if I don't, I just keep them as they are. And I use this plant milk in the chia seed puddings, in the oatmeal, in my cocoa. The soy milk is quite creamy. It is quite high in protein compared to other milk. And this particular one is fortified as well, which is great if you're following a vegan diet. I do have a couple of sweeteners in my arsenal, and one of them is maple syrup. Remember to store your maple syrup in the freezer where it actually freezes, because otherwise it can develop mold inside of it. It's not cool. I saw it on Reddit. It looks nasty. Another thing that I have is some kind of 0-calorie sweetener. In this case, this is stevia. I do purchase it and it lasts me for about 3 to 4 months. I don't use it excessively, only when I want to sweeten my cocoa, for example. It doesn't dissolve very well when you add it to the wet mixtures. However, for something like coffee or tea, it's perfectly fine. If you saw me do my breakfast, you do know that I like adding some peanut protein. I do like adding some plant protein in general into my oats, as well as that I do add some peanut protein into the chia seed pudding. Chia seeds, I do have them almost at all times. Chia seeds are part of the my protein uptake plan as well, but having something like this, like a peanut protein, if you're not allergic to peanuts, of course, if you are allergic to peanuts, pea protein is amazing, and I would have had it if they sold it at my local store at this point in time. Of course, you may want to have some snacks, and if you ask me, I really do like to have some pumpkin seeds and walnuts as a snack. I do have some tofu in here. This is firm tofu, so I'm going to press it to make it even firmer. I don't overeat it. It is not whole food plant-based, but it is plant-based. I do prefer tempeh from time to time, but it is way harder to get a hold of it here in Dubai, and it's way more expensive than tofu. And this does bump up my protein and as well as iron intake. Typically, I do prefer to cook my own beans. However, this week I didn't have enough time to do that. This is why I have purchased some chickpeas and some black beans. Those are going to be used in the chickpeas, and I can eat them throughout the week. After rinsing them properly, those are going to create a beautiful combination with some mushrooms. If you want to add them into different kinds of wraps or bowls, you can also do that.
So based on the current pricing, for me to stock up the pantry for 2-3 weeks, I spend $259,384 AED, or in USD it's going to be 71 to 105, and it's going to last for a while.
Some things which I just got from my freezer are the edamame beans. We just spoke about tofu. So this is kind of a tofu before it becomes tofu. I'm going to use them in the one-pot rice together with some green beans and with some corn. All of these are beautiful from the nutritional composition. They're very calorie dilute, so if you're managing your weight, this can help you manage your hunger as well as eat a little bit less calories.
Frozen products last me for up to 2 months and cost about 37 to 45 dirham, or $10 to $12 US.
And this has been a food haul for the next week. I'm off to cook it all. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful, and see you there. Bye.